It's late at night, and you're all alone at home. You hear a knock at the door. When you go to see who it is, you see someone you know standing outside the door, asking to be let in. But something just isn't right. They look like your loved one, but something is off. Your instincts tell you not to open the door, and your instincts are right. We continue with our interview with Cynthia as she tells us of doppelganger, elemental, and run-of-the-mill ghost encounters she's had in her home in North Carolina. Today on Homespun Haints. Hello, Hainted Loves. Welcome to Homespun Haints. I'm Becky.
Hey, I'm Diana.
Last week, we heard from Cynthia in North Carolina, and she had so many stories that, as promised, we are going to continue with more stories from her today. You're going to hear some really, really spooky things.
Oh, it just gets spookier from here on out. Get ready.
Every day we get closer to Halloween, and so do our stories.
Oh, that's true.
Speaking of North Carolina, or kind of North Carolina. Sorry, it's actually Tennessee, which is next to North Carolina, so it's close.
Basically the same.
We got a letter from Nicole in Sweetwater, Tennessee, which
cool.
I thought was so cool. Nobody sends letters anymore. It was really,
that is
really
true.
Sweet to get a letter. So Diana, well, I don't know about you, Diana. I won't speak for you, but I am terrible at writing letters, even when letters were the only form of communication back before there were telephones and email. I was just really bad. I would just...
Back before there were telephones.
I like lighting things on fire, so flares were my method of communication.
Smoke signals.
But since we have a podcast, I wanted to use the podcast to respond to Nicole.
That's a perfect pen pal relationship.
There you go.
She writes us. We talk to her on the podcast.
She wanted to let us know that the Lost Sea is not the only great thing to check out in Sweetwater, Tennessee.
Ooh.
And she encourages us next time we're in that area, which might happen again because we had so much fun on our last Appalachian road trip.
Yeah.
To check out some other spooky and not so spooky things surrounding the Sweetwater area. And I agree,
Okay.
Nicole. It's just a beautiful, beautiful place. So many caves. I mean, the Lost Sea is kind of like the rock city of the area.
Is it painted on roofs? That's the determining factor?
It's painted under the roofs because it's in a cave. Thank you, Nicole. I just wanted to say thanks for reaching out. This was awesome of you to write to us, and we'd love to know more. If you have any suggestions for what we need to put on our bucket list to visit, please let us know. Shoot us an email at info@homespunhaints.com or write us another letter. We love getting mail. It was super cool.
That's really cool.
It was very cool.
Yeah, if you want us to visit your town because it's insanely haunted, write us a letter and we just might.
We just might.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll do the driving because apparently Diana is terrified of the crazy, crazy hills that we have throughout Appalachia.
I'm terrified of driving no matter what. I'm not happy with it.
I was just thinking about this on the way here because I was running a few minutes late for this recording because I was in traffic and I don't want to offend anybody, but I always follow the speed limit when I'm in residential areas or I go under because, I have children and a dog and cats myself. I want to make sure that everybody's safe. But
Oh yeah, if I hit a cat, I'd never drive again.
Exactly. But in non-residential spaces, I like to practice what I affectionately refer to as offensive driving.
It is that. Yes, that's a good term for it.
You've been in the car with me, Diana. Would you define my driving as offensive?
It's mildly
It's
offensive.
offensive to
Depending
everyone.
on who gets in your way.
I think one of the most offensive driving maneuvers I ever did was when I was driving from Omaha to Chicago, and I had a passenger with me. Shout out if you're listening, you know who you are. This was 20 years ago, so I think statute of limitations is over. I was coming back from Omaha, and it was taking so long, this drive. It's usually between a 7 and 9 hour drive, and I really wanted to make it in 6. And all those tractors on the road were really cramping my style.
Follow your dreams, Becky. Make it in 6. Who says it's a 7-hour drive?
I had already gotten pulled over once just inside the Illinois border. I was going over 100, but I saw and this is back before there were 70-mile-per-hour speed limits. This is how long ago it was, before telephones. So
Yes.
The unmarked car, I saw her. Being the driver that I am, I've had to learn how to recognize unmarked cars. It's a skill that you too could learn if you want to practice the art of offensive driving.
Enough of them pull you over and you start to recognize certain signs,
Yeah.
I suppose.
So I saw her and I immediately brake. She clocks me at 82. She doesn't give me a ticket.
Really? Because you had Illinois plates?
Maybe. And I'd slammed on the brakes and I was this young girl and she gave me a warning, which goes on my record. She's like, I'm going to let you mosey on out of here, but you better slow down. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to slow down until I'm like out of this county, out of jurisdiction, slam on the accelerator again. And I got to this little town in Illinois and I think I was behind an RV. And by this point, the passenger with me, he's one of those people that always drives 5 under, very law-abiding fella. He's already a little freaked out by my driving. He's just wanting to make it home alive.
6 hours, 9 hours, as long as we don't die.
Yeah, Dinah feels the same when I drive.
That's my mantra when I'm driving too.
So I decided that it would be a good idea to drive around said RV. It was like just a little 2-lane road through downtown, but they had those parallel parking spaces on the side. Yeah. So I decided I was going to make a makeshift lane by driving through the parallel parking spaces onto the sidewalk and get around this guy.
Technically a place where cars go.
Not the sidewalk, but the spots, yeah. And as I'm doing this, I see a cop. And I saw him do a U-turn because this is not something that happens often in this small town. You see a little Civic coupe going over sidewalks. And so then I'm like, oh shit, I've already got a warning on my record. I'm under 25. I can't afford to get another I just have no money. That's why I'm driving to Omaha instead of flying there. And so I legit whipped around a corner and drove the car into a cemetery and hid behind a mausoleum for about 15 minutes.
You realize the more mausoleums you hide behind, the longer the drive takes.
I know. I was kicking myself. I was like, this probably added like an extra half hour onto the trip. So there's a lesson. There's a moral of the story, kids. Don't drive on sidewalks.
In small town Illinois.
Anywhere. I've gotten in trouble for that in other places too. It's just, I saw a bumper sticker once that said, if you don't like my driving, get off of the sidewalk. And I felt that. I felt that deep in my heart.
My favorite is on the back of an RV. If you think I'm going slow now, wait till we start going uphill.
So true. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. RVs are a little hard to speed up in, but they're also hard to slow down in, so that's kind of a good thing.
Well, this is why I wanted to go through the parking spots, and there were no hills. We're in Illinois.
You couldn't have just pretended like you were parking? Like you were just practicing extreme parking? Just if you're out of the car, can they give you a ticket? Officer, I'm not even driving a car. What are you talking about?
I have amended my ways. That was 25 years ago. I'm a much safer driver now.
Oh, good.
I have not been on a sidewalk in at least a decade.
Well done.
And I haven't had to hide out behind a mausoleum either. Not in my car, anyway. How about you?
I've never had to do either of those things, drive on a sidewalk or hide out behind a mausoleum. I did have a stress dream about driving last night, though.
Oh.
Woke me up this morning, and I ended up missing my turn, and so I turned into a parking lot, and I ended up in this huge line of trucks. They were being moved onto a cable car cable so that they could be taken over a gorge of some sort.
Oh no, that sounds terrible.
So they were going to put my car on a cable and make me fly over the gorge in it, and I was like, I only have 5 minutes to get where I'm going.
Was this in the age of phones in your dream? Could you have at least called the place you were supposed to go? And
it was just barely in the age of phones, back when we still answered the phone, ahoy!
I'm sorry you have stress dreams about driving.
It's true, I was crying in the dream because I was so stressed out.
This is why I drive when we go places.
Yeah, exactly. I never cry when Becky drives, no matter how offensive it is.
And every time we get there, she's always like, Becky, thank you so much for driving. And I'm like, I appreciate your thanks, but I don't see this going any other way. I think this was the only option.
I still appreciate it. You know what else is dangerous?
What, Diana?
Aside from driving a car.
Is it time for World's Most Dangerous?
I thought you froze there for a second. You're just skipping like a record.
That was edited. I actually did that.
Ululation.
Ooh.
Nice. I don't know why I was doing jazz hands. Nobody can see me, but
Nobody can see my uvula going back and forth like a pendulum either.
we could all hear your uvula. There you go.
Time for World's Most Dangerous.
Yes,
Diana,
it is time.
what have you got for me today?
Becky, we're going to be
Uh-oh.
ranking the world's most dangerous foods.
Oh, yum! My stomach's already growling.
Give us some danger. So, what do you think? Like, I'm not talking about, well, obviously sharp glass is one of the top dangerous foods. No, we're talking about foods that most people who eat them get away with it, but some don't.
Okay, so not people who have pica.
Right, no pica. That's one of the rules. So just a standard food that lots of people, perhaps not around the world, but people do eat every year.
My guess for the top most dangerous would be a tie between armadillo and blowfish.
It's called fugu.
Fugu,
That
thank
is
you.
the top one.
Fugu.
Armadillo's not on the list. I guess not enough
What?
people actually consider it a food.
They did not live in my family. Holy
You ate armadillo?
No, I would
What does
never
it taste
touch
like?
it, but my aunt used to eat it all the time.
Ew.
Yeah, it's just,
Oh, that's disgusting.
it's-
Why would you eat an armadillo? It's
They were poor.
basically covered in
Leprosy. Yeah,
No,
you get leprosy
Ew.
from eating armadillo. No,
Why would you do that? That's not
because
food.
if you're poor as shit, you eat whatever is dead on the road.
Oh, okay. Listen, I'll eat the weird stuff.
Yeah.
Anytime, any day. I'll eat the weird stuff. I've eaten June bugs. I've eaten
Yeah, I know.
nutria. Nutria, the rodents of unusual size that live in New Orleans levees.
Okay, that's weird. Okay, keep going.
Yeah.
We can
no,
have another
but-
conversation about that one day.
I've eaten crickets, grasshoppers, all sorts of interesting proteins. Not to mention like Indian bittermelon, which every time Amber sees it, she starts to pale with the memory.
Oh, God.
I love eating weird stuff. It makes me happy, but I never love eating dangerous stuff. I actually don't eat dangerous stuff. I eat safe stuff like June bugs.
So you've never had fugu?
I've never had fugu. I don't want to have fugu. About 50 people are hospitalized annually with about a 10% fatality rate.
Which is crazy because only 75 people are willing to eat it a year.
Exactly. Yep. With every one of these foods, if you do it just right, it might be safe. So, if you prepare fugu, if you are a licensed chef from Japan, the mortality rate is significantly lower than if you get it at like Panda Express. No, like, don't sue us, Panda Express. I'm sorry. That was a terrible thing to say. Cut that out.
I don't know. I'd love to get my fugu at Panda Express. That sounds great.
Fortunately, that's not a risk because they don't serve it there because they know they wouldn't be preparing it correctly because it's a very rare dish that you need to know exactly how
I don't
to
prepare anything correctly there.
So yeah, around 50 people every year hospitalized. 10% of those actually perish. In the past decade, there's been about 23 deaths total in Japan.
In Japan.
So in Japan only. A lot more at Panda Express. Yes.
Can we please leave it in?
Again, I'm lying. I'm just lying. Nope, don't sue us, Panda Express. We love you.
No, we don't.
When I was in college, I took a biology class, and for some reason, our professor was obsessed with pufferfish and was like just constantly going on about tetrodotoxin, which is the type of toxin you die from if fugu is prepared improperly.
Right.
And 1 out of 9 questions on the exams had to do with pufferfish. Like
Okay.
he was that obsessed. And I was like, whew, that class is over. I'll never have to learn anything about pufferfish toxin again.
And then you
Well,
did
guess
the
who I
show.
had for toxicology?
Oh, no.
So we did another section on pufferfish toxins. I really don't feel like I know a lot about toxicology unless it's about pufferfish. I'm ashamed of that. But yeah, no, that was all I took away from both of those classes was I probably won't eat that because I'm a chicken when it comes to eating food, which is why I'll also never try number 2.
All right, number 2. I bet it's when you eat octopus or not octopus. Well, yeah, anything with tentacles or squid that's still moving, because I've heard the suctions can actually suction on the inside of your throat and cause you to suffocate.
Ooh, yeah, I didn't even think about that.
Because I was going to try it when I was in Japan, because like you, Diana, I like eating weird things, even though I have not yet had bugs. But then when I learned that there was a danger to it, I decided not to.
I wasn't even counting that as a dish because it's so damn rare.
I think there's actually a place in Brooklyn you can find it.
Seriously?
Yeah, but until they get
It's called Sanakji,
Okay.
and it is not number 2
All right. Well, okay.
on the list. I just checked.
Okay, number 2. All right, let me try this then. King Cobra.
I didn't think about that either.
There was a restaurant near where I lived in Chicago that had king cobra as like one of their specialties.
No shit.
Uh-huh.
These are all foods I didn't realize were foods.
Really? I thought you ate the weird shit.
I told you I ate weird, safe foods.
Okay, all right.
Either way, king cobra would not be ranked number 2.
Yeah, I guess you have to try pretty hard to get the venom in it.
King cobra actually ranks out at number 11. So it's not in the top 10.
Oh my gosh. Okay, I'm glad I never ate it. Okay. Raw salmon.
Should I tell you what number salmon is?
Number salmon? Is it salmon? Number 2?
Not number 2.
What's
Salmon is number 8.
what?
Yep.
Raw or cooked?
Raw or undercooked salmon. It can cause parasitic anisakis. In general, it's pretty safe if you eat salmon, which is prepared while cooked. But salmon is number 8 on the list. Do you have a guess for what number 2 is?
Pork?
That is a very dangerous food, but it is not dangerous in the way most human beings intend to prepare it. It is most dangerous when it's prepared improperly. But a lot of things are prepared improperly all of the time.
Yeah.
So a lot of the time you can eat barbecue that's cooked at too low a temperature, or pork that's not smoked properly and is like uncured prosciutto or something like that.
Oh, I eat prosciutto a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, should I stop?
I don't understand why you do it at all.
I like charcuterie. It's like a thing. I love charcuterie. And prosciutto is usually part of charcuterie. Yeah, okay. All right.
You're just a Gen Xer who wishes she could have gotten Lunchables when she was a kid.
Yeah,
aren't you?
my mom wouldn't let me. They were too expensive.
Exactly.
Okay, all right.
Same here, but I never asked for the most part because I ended up going vegetarian. Lunchables always have meat in them.
Yeah. Okay, all right. Shrimp. I had a coworker that got cholera from eating shrimp.
How do you get cholera from eating shrimp?
I think it was washed in really bad water.
Did she wash it in the potty?
No, she got it at a restaurant. She said it tasted funny, and then she was sick for the next year.
Yeah, no kidding. I think she got cholera from a person with cholera who fixed shrimp.
Maybe.
In which case, every food is dangerous if Typhoid Mary's cooking it.
Right. Okay. I don't know. What? Tell me. The second most dangerous food, Diana.
The second most dangerous food in the world
Yes.
is known as Keizu Marzu.
Okay, I never would have guessed that. What the hell is it?
Keizu Marzu is Keizu, it's a cheese. It's a Sardinian cheese, and the way it gets its flavor is through contamination, intentional contamination with live maggots.
Wait, why is it dangerous? Because maggots only eat dying flesh.
It's not fly maggots.
Wait, what other kind of maggots are there?
The maggots are the larvae of the cheese fly, because this is the only thing people use them for, I suppose, or know about them, is it's called Piophila casei, or cheese fly. Sardinian cheese flies lay their eggs in the cheese as it's fermented. They're deliberately introduced to break down the fats and cause a soft texture during fermentation because they eat the cheese fats and they they poop enzymes. So you don't have to add any rennet or enzymes or anything like that. You just put the maggots in and they do the work for you. And this is great, except for the fact that you really shouldn't swallow these larvae. If you swallow them,
You have cheese maggots in your gut.
without chewing very, very, very carefully, then you'll get horrible pain in your abdomen. A lot of the time you'll get allergic reactions that could be very, very dangerous, shellfish type allergic reactions. And they can technically, these maggots, their defense mechanism when they get scared
Oh no.
is to jump like a flea. If they jump up your nose, it's just like the brain-eating parasites in the lake water in Oklahoma.
Oh my god, they go into your brain.
So the typical way, the traditional way of eating Keisumarzu is with your fingers of one hand plugging your nose while you eat the cheese.
But they can still go up the back of your throat into your
Yes,
nasal
this
cavity.
is why you have to chew very carefully.
What the fuck? No. What the? Oh god.
There are many countries that have banned Keisumarzu.
Oh, no
even though
shit.
there's a species of fly specifically named after this cheese process.
Oh my god.
So if you do eat Keisumarzu,
No.
aka maggot cheese, aka jumping maggot cheese, just be sure to plug your nose and chew carefully.
Why? What the hell? Like, just eat the
Apparently
rennet.
it's really soft.
Yes.
It's like really soft.
Uh-huh, so will your brain be after this thing gets in it.
So, what do you think? Girls trip to Sardinia?
Hell no.
No?
God, no. I'm never eating cheese again. Or prosciutto. All right.
Yeah.
Okay, number three, I guess.
Number 3? I can give you a hint if you need a
Okay,
hint.
sure.
It has thousands of cases annually are poisoned, but only in Africa. It is a vegetable.
Cassava?
Yes, it's cassava. Thousands of people annually are poisoned because if you don't prepare it carefully, it contains a lot of cyanide.
Right.
Like a lot. Moving on. After cassava,
Moving on. Yeah, just don't eat it, guys.
just don't eat. Well, I mean, if you get it at Trader Joe's, it's probably fine. It's like just if it's prepared poorly.
I mean, also, peach pits have cyanide in them, so.
Exactly. Don't eat those either. Why would you eat those? Though apricot pits make excellent cookies. That's an Italian thing. The next item on our list, number 4, has a high risk of poisoning if improperly prepared. And what it causes, if you eat it improperly, is Jamaican vomiting sickness. That's a good hint. In the US, you can really only buy this in a can, so it's probably already safe to eat. But in Jamaica, I did find it raw, and I almost bought it and experimented with it because that's the kind of bitch I am. I'm really glad I didn't.
I don't know what vegetables you eat in Jamaica.
I think it's actually a fruit.
Or fruit.
Starts with an A.
Apricot? Apple?
Have you been to the Caribbean at all?
Yeah, a bunch.
Then you've certainly seen this on a menu somewhere.
Aphrodisiac. Apple. Anaconda. I don't, just tell me.
It's called ackee. It's yellow.
Okay.
It does look a lot like jackfruit, but it's kind of got a more savory flavor. But if you don't prepare it correctly, also contains massive amounts of cyanide.
Oh, shit. Cyanide's in everything. So far, we've got a fish, a cheese.
A root vegetable and a fruit.
Okay, so it doesn't matter whether you're vegetarian or kosher.
No. Okay,
Okay.
The 5th one is a vegetable, just to
Okay.
round us out here. And I am certain that this is a thing that you probably have eaten, given where you grew up.
Tobacco.
You ate tobacco growing up? Gross.
There's this growing everywhere. I mean, you say everything. Honeysuckle. No, that's
Not
that's a
dangerous.
flower. Tell that to my mom. Stop eating the honeysuckle. I cannot for the life of me think of it. What is it?
It's called pokeweed.
Oh! Oh, yeah.
You know pokeweed, right? And you're like, wait, that's horribly poisonous? I've had that all over the place. Yeah, you have, because if you prepare it correctly, which your Appalachian granny women know how to do, it's perfectly safe. But if you don't, it causes like an internal rash.
Oh,
It
gross.
can make you very ill, and other types of toxic compounds are in it.
How do you scratch a rash on the inside?
I don't get, probably with ululation like you were doing earlier.
Yeah.
You already guessed number 6, which was live octopus. Can you guess number 7, and then I'll let you go? It is also a vegetable.
Also a vegetable. Man, all those doctors telling you to eat your vegetables, they were wrong. Just ignore
Clearly.
them.
Again, this is pretty safe if it is cooked properly. But here's the thing. People generally don't cook it.
Is it kale?
'Tis not kale.
Okay, romaine.
Yes.
What? Is it because it's always contaminated with salmonella?
Or E. coli. It's just as likely to be contaminated with E. coli.
Gross.
Depending on where it's grown.
Yeah.
So a lot of people grow it right next to pig farms and let the pig poop runoff go into the romaine fields.
Yay.
So depending on where you get it from, it is so contaminated that it is impossible to wash off enough E. coli to not die.
I was gonna have a salad for dinner, but now I'm not.
I know, I'm really limiting your greens, aren't I?
Yeah. Can't have spinach. Now I can't have romaine. What am I
You
supposed
can
to
have
do?
all the kale you want. Yay!
Wow. Okay. Well, I'm going to be eating nothing but hamburgers for the rest of my life. Thank you, Diana.
Caviar.
Yeah, this
Ground
is,
beef and caviar.
you just convinced me that processed foods are the way to go.
Hey.
And
Everybody makes fun of me because I like iceberg lettuce, but it's safe, damn it.
all right. Well, Diana, thank you so much for regaling me with like those horrifying stories.
Thank you. Oh, you're welcome.
Um,
So sorry. I didn't mean to ruin food for you, but I guess I did.
my nutritionist will be proud that I'm no longer eating salads.
Or fugu.
We hope you all will significantly modify your food choices after this. We're about to bring on Cynthia, and you can hear the rest of her stories. But for those of you that are not patrons, which you can also sign up for at patreon.com/homespunhaints.
Here's this special commercial for you. Becky,
Diana,
why does Ella look so sad?
she's been really glum lately because she hasn't achieved the worldwide stardom that she knows is her birthright.
Oh, that's terrible. People have heard of Lil Bub, Grumpy Cat, and Pussy Galore. Surely they've heard of Ella Kalimnik, the world's podcasting cat? No?
I took Ella to the Hollywood Walk of Fame the other day, and not a soul recognized her. In fact, we were even asked to leave after the cabbage incident.
I think we must rectify this atrocity right away.
I have just the thing. You know the tote bag you've got that has Ella's beautiful visage right on the front?
The one with the cute messaging that says every time I meow in the middle of the night, I'm talking to that person that you cannot see. Yes, I got it from our Homespun Haints merch store, actually.
She did a great job modeling for that photo.
And everyone who purchases one of these bags will not only be able to carry their exorcism supplies more easily, they'll also help Ella realize her dreams of worldwide notoriety.
It's a win-win for everyone.
All people have to do is go to homespunhaints.com and click on the merch link at the top of the page. Then they can rest easy, knowing they've helped a cat reach her potential.
Do the right thing. Help support Ella and Homespun Haints. Today we are continuing our interview with Cynthia. Last week, Cynthia told us about visits with spirits of her ancestors that happened when she was a child. She also had some Twilight Zone level stories of time slips that she's experienced, and some terrifying stories of things she's seen around her home in North Carolina. So if you missed last week's episode, definitely go back and take a listen after you've listened to this one. Cynthia, you have shared so many things about the entities outside your home, but do you have anything that shows up inside your home?
Mama Diane came with the boyfriend. The boyfriend, he lives with us. This is my oldest daughter's. Well, let me be very clear about this. This is my oldest daughter's boyfriend. who lives with us. So Mama Diane showed up shortly after she passed and I think was a little lost. Got really upset that the remote was not in the right place at her house and came to tell the boyfriend, Mama Diane likes to play with the electronics. She likes to knock stuff off shelves. And that's usually when I know she's here, is when Mama Diane's playing with electronics.
Oh my goodness.
And we have Papa White, but Papa White's kind of permanent again. My daughter's boyfriend's grandfather, and he will walk down the stairs, go in the living room and take a nap. And you could sometimes, when I'm by myself, and I used to be by myself a lot, I could hear somebody snoring in the living room. I'm like, who is this? So I recorded it one time. I actually have recording and played it for my daughter's boyfriend. And he's like, that's Papa White snoring. And I go, well, there you go. He takes naps in the living room.
I recognize that snoring.
So last week you mentioned being able to talk to elementals surrounding your house, and you alluded to the trees in the front of your house. Can you elaborate on that?
We have water oaks in the front yard. And so I started my relationship with one tree because they are oaks, right? They have those deep roots. Started connecting and learning how they communicate and what they do and how they show communication. I was on the phone with a friend of mine yesterday who's also a psychic, and I was telling her about the doppelganger that we were having issues with trying to get in the house. And one of my trees actually captured it. She goes, well, how do you know? And I said, well, it told me. I had put my hand on the tree and it showed me what it had done. And then it showed me what that doppelganger was doing. And it was trying to be nasty and ugly and screaming at me, but the tree had it. I had no problems with it. And I said, it's kind of funny because the tree is the healthiest I've seen it in the 6 years we've lived here. And I think it's taken that energy and turned it into what it needs. But it did. It took care of that doppelganger. So we don't have that entity anymore. We don't have to worry about it.
What was that like, the doppelganger?
The weirdest freaking thing I think I've ever... And it's... So my husband dealt with it and I've seen it. I saw it and it tried to be my husband.
Ooh.
But it wasn't the right shape. Like, my husband's kind of a stocky guy. Like, there were things that weren't right. Like, his tattoos weren't in the right place.
Whoa.
I'm like, you're not coming in. No. Because the door was locked. I stood in front of our door. I'm sitting in a converted carport, and we have a door entrance there. And that's where we come and go, and that's where it was trying to get in. And this was during the day. My husband was at work and this thing was trying to get in. I'm like, no, go away. You're not welcomed. And then it tried at night. My oldest daughter is a diesel mechanic and she works late shifts. And my husband was like, I almost opened the door. He said she wasn't moving her mouth, but I could hear her voice. And she was saying, Dad, the door's locked. Let me in. He goes, no. And it kept talking. He said, but I knew something wasn't right even in my sleepy state because her mouth wasn't moving. When he said, no again, be gone, it disappeared. And that's when the tree caught it.
Creepy. Oh. That's very disturbing. Oh, all of these things around here. Oh my goodness. So do you feel like in the area, a lot of people are affected by all of these presences?
Absolutely.
And how the presence of all of these supernatural creatures has to have an effect on the lives of people who don't see them and don't acknowledge that they exist? What is that effect like?
Yep, I absolutely believe that. And I have seen people be emotionally affected, like especially in June, because that's when the big Ramsar Mill battle happened.
Okay.
And it's reenacted by a company, a theater company that does reenacting, which they do a good job. I've been there, but it definitely imbues that emotion and conjures a lot. And so you see people during the month of June, sometimes they're not acting quite right. Sometimes they're seeing things that they don't think they saw. They won't talk about it. Every now and then you get somebody to say something. Some of the older folks are really funny because it's just a part of life. They grew up with it. So Granddaddy talks about sometimes the Haints that walk through different parts. And he'll talk about when they walk through town. And when he was younger, there used to be a lot more. It's not quite as prevalent. But Granddaddy will talk about it. He's not my granddaddy. I just am adopted by the family, so he's granddaddy.
The main question I have after all of this is, with all the supernatural things you've seen, felt, heard, etc., have you ever had that experience again where you felt like you were walking through static and you knew you were walking through the presence of some kind of other planar thing? And what is that like? What were the subsequent experiences there?
We used to be very active in the theater guild that's here, and the building that this takes place in used to be the old church and converted into an auditorium. There's a little boy who likes to poke you, who will pull on you and let you know that he's there, especially if you sit higher up towards the sound box. That's very playful. There's another, I'm not going to say whether it's male or female, I'm just going to call it an entity, because it will manifest as a female, and sometimes it manifests as a little girl or another little child. It's hard to say what it is. That likes to usually hang around also in the upper balcony where we go in and out for the dressing room areas if we're trying to do things from a top level, and you can walk through that all the time because it hangs out there. It likes to manifest in the dressing room because there's people that come and go, so it'll just manifest as a person, kind of what it thinks it may look like. So it strikes me as something that may be more of a thought form, because theater, you put all yourself out on stage. And when there are shows going on, that place is super active. I helped direct, I was assistant director for a kids show, and the kids were interested because they kept telling me, "Oh, Miss Cynthia, we saw the little boy or the little girl came in." I'm like, whoa, what do you mean little girl? Like that? No, don't play with that. The little boy is fine. Do not interact with the little girl. So we set up just one of those little ghost radar things. You can load on your phone. And so during rehearsals and performances, I'd have that running and they'd watch it and it would talk to them. But I'd protect it. Like I made sure I said, now you remember, you are asking for only those with good intentions, only those with positive light. Like that's all you want to interact with. So we all have to remember this. And so we did. There is a Dr. Wilson also that is there. He's not a fan of kids. He thinks they're too loud. And I know that because he told us. But they weren't that bad. It's just Dr. Wilson. He's cranky. He gets really cranky when you don't call him Dr. Wilson. Everybody calls him Mr. Wilson. And they blame him for a lot of things. But he doesn't always do that. Like I had a light switch, the old knob, the old dimmer switches, but it had gotten pulled off the wall and thrown at me when I was in the sound room. It was not Dr. Wilson. It was somebody else. But they were letting me know they were there. He likes to just appear. He just wants to know what's going on. We were sitting in there one time. We were getting ready for a parade. We were doing Beauty and the Beast. So we had a cast of 90 people. And we had a freak storm move through. There was this lightning strike. Didn't hit the building, but it took out power. Just as that hit, I was watching the security cameras and the monitors because I was looking where everybody was. He appeared not only in the vestibule area, he appeared also upstairs in another camera. And it was like this weird negative photo view. It was the outline of a person in really bright colors, and he was standing here one time, and then he was up here, and it was at the same time. I'm like, oh so you're going to play that game.
Goodness.
Yeah.
So he simultaneously appeared on multiple security cameras, and then bam, the power went out.
And so he was on multiple floors. So he was on the first floor and the third floor.
How do you think that's possible?
Yeah. I don't know. I don't question these things. I just go, oh, it's possible. That's all I say.
Oh, I see. That happens now.
Yeah.
Now that's a part of my reality.
Yeah. I'm gonna make note of that, and then as I listen and do my own little research, I'm gonna okay, I can validate that.
Oh my goodness. Wow. Those are super exciting stories. Do you have anything else that you wanted to tell us a story about?
Okay, let's talk about Phil. This is my diesel mechanic daughter who also has abilities. Every shop she has worked in, there has been entities who befriend her. Recently, there was a young man who sought her out, and we figured out his name is Phil. Phil will help her find nuts that get lost, like bolts. I mean, we're talking 18-wheelers. So, you lose nuts and bolts. Pieces of her tools will show up on her toolbox. Papers have even shown up on her toolbox that she thought were missing, and nobody's put them there. Like, where her toolbox sits, there's cameras, and so she'll go back and check and see, has anybody been in my drawers borrowing my tools? Like, what's going on? So what we have found out from Phil is he was a young man there was a terrible accident. It was fatal for him. He died near the shop. Being the culture that, working in a mechanical shop is, he was made fun of a lot. So he was seeking out help to help change that. And so that's what my daughter has done in her time there, kind of help change the narrative and give him a name, tell people quit picking on him. So now he's become more helpful. Just like any trade, these tools are not cheap. These are a $200 wrench. And they don't get reimbursed for this stuff. This is just stuff they have to have in order to do their job. And so Phil has now taken to helping find things. She called me up one night. She's like, Mom, I need you to find Phil, and I need you to connect with him, and I need you to ask him where something was. I can't remember. She lost something. And I said, okay, hang on. Because she's done this a couple of times. This has happened a couple of times. And so I do my connection thing. I've never met Phil personally, but Phil doesn't mind if I tune into him. I literally watched him walk through the shop, and we found what they were looking for.
Oh my goodness.
And it was on the corner of like one of the service tech's desk. And I'm like, okay, this is where you need to go. It should be right there. This is what it looks like. And she walked in. She goes, it's exactly what you said. It was right there. And it was exactly what it looked like.
Oh, how helpful.
Yeah.
So, okay, this sounds like something I need to learn. You said do my connection thing. Tell me about that. How would I go about getting a connection thing like you do?
Okay, first of all, Diana, I'm going to say I probably do it wrong. Okay,
Oh.
like don't. No, I try to just. You go into that space where you allow yourself not to be in yourself, right? So you have to protect yourself, right? Because you are now in places you need to protect yourself. And I'm not saying I astral project or anything like that. I literally sit here and go, okay, calling Phil. Is Phil there? Phil, I need you. Not really Phil, I'm sorry. He said what? And didn't mean to do that. Sorry. So that kind of connection, and then just have that telepathic communication, like that's what I do for myself. Most of the time, I get pictures, not all the time a conversation. Like when Mama Diane shows up, most of the time she shows me her chair, she shows me the remote, and she shows me the pocket that it's supposed to be in, and I know she's upset because the remote's not in the chair, right? When I'm connecting, I try to connect actually through my dog. So I'm thinking about, she's standing in the shop, and from the shop, I need to do XYZ. Again, probably not the right way. It's just the puzzle pieces I've put together, listening to all sorts of podcasts and reading, and that's what I came up with.
Well, it sounds like it works. So
So far,
that's very helpful. Do you have anything you'd like to plug?
Definitely. My friend Shannon Spring, she wrote Open Mic for Fairy Tales. I've cried, I've laughed harder, and it's got a wonderful ending. Like it's a fun book. And Shannon Spring is her name. It's on Amazon. I think I pulled it off of Amazon. Ghost of the North Carolina Piedmont. This is great. By Frances Cass Stevens, is really good.
Well, Cynthia, thank you so much for sharing those incredibly spooky stories.
Thank you.
Hainted Loves, we hope you enjoyed this second part of this incredibly spooky set of stories that Cynthia has shared with us out of North Carolina and beyond. Hopefully you now will be checking everybody who wanders in your house just to make sure they really are the person you think they are.
And not a doppelganger. Because that is a very spooky day.
Homespun Haints is hosted by Becky Kielimnik and Diana Doty, and produced by Homespun Haints Media LLC. Editing and music by Becky Kielimnik. Show notes by Diana Doty. If you have a ghost story and you'd like to be considered as a guest for this podcast, please visit our website at homespunhaints.com/submit.